God, you get the impression that they had a blast making this movie.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast, where we discuss the world of film from a fresh angle. And now your host, Robert Yanis Jr.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob. On this show, we democratize the film criticism conversation by bringing on fans and critics alike to dig into their personal connection to a current or classic release. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the 1987 comedy written, directed by John Hughes. I am honored to welcome back to the show Jamie Williams. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. This was fun. It was too long. It was almost a year.
Yeah, it has.
Weird.
I think it was like April when we talked about Man on the Moon. It does feel like it's been a while. A lot has happened since then. So
well, you know what kills me about that is that we literally did the Man on the Moon discussion, and like I really like the show, and because I'm an egomaniac, I will actually listen back to it sometimes. I go, man, Robert did a great job, and my fat ass was tolerable. But what amazes me is like you recorded that like at the end of April. And then I think you post like 3 weeks later because like you like to bang them out and like put them out, quickly in a good pace. And I look at it, and right when you posted yours, I look up and see the nostalgia that Doug Walker did a Man on the Moon episode out of nowhere. I was like, what? Like, was something in the water that all made us want to talk about Man on the Moon? It was so weird. It was so random.
It is random. It's not often one of those. I mean, I know everybody was still in the whole 1999 thing last year, but it's not even one of those like Fight Club, The Matrix that everybody was talking about either. And I think that was kind of an underlying theme throughout our discussion is like, why aren't people talking about this?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's just like, yeah, we picked something random. Like, I wouldn't say obscure because that was a pretty big release at Christmas. But like, if me and you had talked about like Arlington Road, then we're going into obscure.
Right.
Or Ride with the Devil, shit like that. Then we're going into but what? Like, that's so weird.
Yeah, that's so funny. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles this episode. So before we get into the movie, I thought maybe it would make sense to talk a little bit about John Hughes and his filmography. So what is your experience with John Hughes? Like, what was the first movie of his that you saw, and how did you kind of fall into his oeuvre, I guess, as it were?
I don't really know what the first one I saw was, but it was one thing where I reached adolescence around the time the internet really rearing its head in the mid-'90s, and started looking at filmmakers, and John Hughes was so somehow I got bumped into, I looked up, found Hughes, and I'd seen certain titles, and it's that fun thing of like going to the video store and roaming around, which is something I miss, and I envy those people who still have videos in their area, and there's a few out there. I just discovered a lot of his titles, and they spoke to me like a lot of teenage kids. It's just something about him for this guy who at the time was in his mid-30s and an ex-marketing executive who turned into a screenwriter / producer director. There was something about him that just spoke to kids of that moment that can't be replicated and will never again. And like Breakfast Club, it spoke to me, man. Like I really love Breakfast Club, and I despise the cultural reappropriation of Hughes' work now, because you have a lot of people who want to say, oh, he was a white guy in the mid-'80s, and of course he wrote about white people. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He wrote about young people, kids. That was his area. I mean, like, I should get the Long Duck Dong thing with 16 Candles. I kind of get it. I think that was also, I think it's too sensitive about that, because that was a cartoon character. I mean, like, you don't see Kenny Watanabe complaining about it because he made his career. He's dining on that role. Okay, let's get his opinion on that one. But like, we can't even like 16 Candles now because like we have to hate one singular part of it. When it was about like John Hughes writing about a girl whose family forgets about her birthday. Yeah, if you watch 16 Candles, not only if you rewatch it, one, it's so fucking funny, and two, every character is kind of crazy. There's not like a character that's not nutty in their own way, except for probably the dad, played by Paul Dooley. I think he's the only non-crazy character in the whole movie. But it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, and it's also not, maybe by today's standards, a lot of these things from the 80s don't hold up, but it's also like, it's not entirely fair to crucify an entire movie for it reflecting the politics of the day, I guess, in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So taking one element and being like, oh, we're going to forget about, we're going to tuck that movie away. It's like, well, at the time that wasn't an issue. People weren't offended by things like that. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's, do I experience that now going back and watching older movies that I grew up with and seeing something like, ooh, that element did not particularly age well, but I mean, I'm not going to stop watching the movie. I mean, it's still, it is what it is. I mean, you see a lot of that anytime you see a movie really from before the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's unfair to kind of just sweep it away because of that. I agree with you on that point.
It's just silly. Like, that's the man's work. Like, let it speak for itself. And it spoke to a lot of people for a reason, man.
Yeah.
But by the same token, like, not all of John Hughes spoke to me. Like, even though it's not really his, he didn't direct it, I've never been a Pretty in Pink guy.
Right.
Like, that's one I can't, and I have such a distance from it. And, like, that's one that the more and more time has gone away, I think more and more people are like, and I might be wrong on that one, but I feel like that's one where, like, people just felt like, Some Kind of Wonderful I've actually never seen. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. I've never cared. Again, that's Howard Deutsch, not John Hughes, but Hughes wrote produced. And that was, Some Kind of Wonderful was his answer to Pretty in Pink, him feeling that he had sort of done the wrong. He had wronged. He picked the wrong ending in his mind. Mm-hmm. He felt like he was righting that wrong with Some Kind of Wonderful. Which I've never seen. Once again, I finished it. That one I never cared for that. I mean, you talk about Hughes, you can't talk about John Hughes without getting into what came of John Hughes in the 90s. And, like, what's the movie that broke him? And for years, I used to think Home Alone was the movie that broke him. And I think I realized it might have been not so much Home Alone, but like maybe Uncle Buck's kind of the movie that broke him in a way. Because that's the first one where it got predominantly silly. The hijinks started to really amp up. He directed Uncle Buck with Candy, who we're going to get to in a minute. Mm-hmm. And something about John Candy, he just really worked with his material the best. I think if I had to guess, I'd say the moment that Hughes, it sort of was like when it kind of flipped for Hughes, not Home Alone. Which, I mean, I like Home Alone. I mean, as a blonde-haired kid in 1990 who was 6 years old, I got a lot of people thinking I was Macaulay Culkin. And I had cousins who would exploit that. God bless. And I laugh at it now. But, like, in fact, watched Home Alone and Home Alone 2 this past Christmas on streaming on Disney Plus. And because I share my brother's account. If this finds out, Sophia, fuck them. But they have enough money. But I liked it. I liked Home Alone perfectly fine. Not so much.
Yeah, it's. I think people don't realize a lot of his legacy. Like, he's only directed 8 movies over the course of his career, but when you count everything that he wrote or that he produced, like it's pretty extensive.
It's a lot of stuff.
What was that?
It's a lot of stuff when you realize.
It is a lot of stuff, yeah. He created an archetype for, like, as you mentioned, teen movies, and just kind of shaped a certain form of comedy over the course of that, decade or whatever.
In the same way that the Farrelly brothers did in the 90s, like the moment, like with Something About Mary, although their formula already started with Dumb and Dumber into great success, Something About Mary was the next 10 years, maybe not 10 years, but a good 5 years was the formula comedies were made for. If that was, everyone was trying to strive for Something About Mary, to the point where, the next year they made American Pie was, the next Something About Mary. Mm-hmm. That's okay.
Yeah, it was like the whole gross out humor was was the thing. And then for me with John Hughes, like I grew up with Weird Science as a movie that I would watch a lot as a kid, but I actually kind of missed out on most of his other movies. Like, I didn't see Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller or anything. I saw Uncle Buck as a kid too, actually, but I didn't see Ferris Bueller or Breakfast Club or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles until, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago or something. Like, when my wife and I got together, she was like, "You haven't seen Ferris Bueller?" She's like, "We need to fix that."
What did you think?
I like them all. I like all the movies, all the aforementioned 3 movies. I've seen She's Having a Baby, and I didn't care for that as much. Like, I've seen most of his directorial movies now, and I really like. Actually, I think the one that we're gonna talk about, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I think is possibly his best movie. I think it's it's arguable, and I guess we'll get into that. But no, and that was a huge blank spot for me as far as his filmography and just kind of appreciating everything that he accomplished in a relatively short period of time. I mean, the first movie he directed was 16 Candles in '84, and then his last one was Curly Sue, if anybody even remembers that, probably not, in '91. So like in the span of like 7 years, his whole directorial career took place. And then, yeah, like you said,
he kept making a lot of money. He was doing a lot of stuff in the '90s. Like he was producing and writing a lot of stuff. Like the 101 Dalmatians, I remember that was a pretty big. He wrote and produced that. He didn't direct it. Dennis the Menace, lots of stuff. Plus the Home Alone sequels, all those he wrote. Like he wrote Home Alone 3. He wrote all those films. Tons of scripts and movies that never got made.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Weird Science. I have to tell you, my first affiliate comment, the video store example, like I knew the USA Network TV show first.
Yeah, I remember that too.
I literally had no idea Weird Science was a movie. I was like, wait, what? Like I saw the logo, it was extended from the show. I was like, wait, this is a movie? And like, I'm with you. I like Weird Science. That's another one they wouldn't make it.
Oh, hell no. No, not at all. But yeah, Kelly LeBrock back in the day. And yeah, it's a whole thing. So John Hughes was hugely impactful on film. And then I'm glad that I finally got a chance to catch up with his. Do you have a favorite of his, I guess, directorial movies? It's like there's only 8 of them, so.
The one we're mentioning, I think it's I think it's not only specific. I think I would go as far. I would call it a perfect comedy.
Yeah,
I would go that far.
Yeah,
I think it's a perfect comedy. I think it's constructed in such a perfect way that like they come up with every conceivable way to explain that why these guys haven't keep running into each other and the dynamics and how it builds upon itself with these two characters who were so diametrically opposed. And that's the one that's the best. It's my favorite. It's also biased. It's my bias alert as bells are going off, but it's also my favorite comedy. Think about it, the older I get. And we think how every time Christmas comes along, and we always have there's always people who think they're being so clever, talking about how what's really a Christmas movie? Die Hard's a Christmas movie. But people that's it's part of the fun of people saying talking about a lot of great Christmas movies. I'm going to go and answer the question right now. What's the best Christmas movie of all time? The Godfather.
So which one?
The Godfather.
That's what you said. Okay.
Yeah, The Godfather. I mean, they're just eating Christmas, so that counts. So
okay,
The Godfather.
Technically.
That's the question. What top that? I would tell somebody. Actually, technically, Citizen Kane. Actually, the flashbacks are Christmas, so you could say Citizen Kane is a Christmas movie. Yeah. So you could one up me on that one, actually.
I never really, I think people's definition of Christmas movie is very loose.
Right.
I mean, I always feel like for it to be a Christmas movie, I feel like it has to be about Christmas. It has to be essential to the plot,
True. But, Die Hard has nothing to do with, Christmas, what does that have to do with Die Hard?
Right. It's incidental that it happens to be Christmas time.
It is so incidental. Yeah. Same thing with Lethal Weapon. With Shane Black's whole filmography.
Oh,
that dude loves Christmas.
Yeah, that's people's Christmas movie list.
He loves Christmas. I'd be shocked. I haven't seen The Predator, but I've seen that The Predator is set during Christmas. Is it?
I forget because that movie was very forgettable, to be honest. So that's a knock against The Predator. It might be. I do like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and things like that, and that is also a Christmas movie. So that tends to be more often than not. I'm going to say yes. It probably is set at Christmas.
But my point being, I'm long-winded. I apologize.
Okay.
We can have the fun conversation about Christmas, but Thanksgiving, it seems like there is only one movie, and it's Automobiles. And I'm probably wrong on this one, but it feels like it's the only Thanksgiving movie. And is it because they did such a great job, or just I don't know what's the circumstances? Because nobody's really. I'm sure a few people have tried. There have been Thanksgiving movies, to be fair, but in terms of the really great ones that everyone loves, that's the iconic one, and that seems to be the only fucking one.
Yeah, because it's about Thanksgiving. My point stands.
Yeah, it's true, and it's a weird statistic that I think is in. I'm not mentioning the movie, but apparently Thanksgiving has always been the worst time to travel in the United States, and I don't know why Christmas isn't worse. But apparently Thanksgiving is the worst. I get it. I don't know. But, my first affiliation with that movie, and I don't know when I first saw it, but I can tell you, and this is something about our generation. I'm about to get essentially off topic, and I apologize again ahead of time for you good kids out there listening. It was one of those movies, the VHS recorded movie that me and you, I'm sure you had a lot of those yourself, and our generation had in general, where you take it off television and you watch it 100,000 times. So we had a copy of Trains and Automobiles from, I wish I had the tape, but I remember when it was. It was from the USA Network on Thanksgiving Day, 1996. It had all the commercials on it. And I remember because I said Thanksgiving from USA Network. And I know it's 1996 because they had commercials for Space Jam. Nice. That one's it. So so that's how I know. And we had that tape, and we would we would just play that. We wouldn't even rent it. Why bother? We got the tape from TV. Yeah. Although you're really missing, one of the funniest scenes in the movie, obviously, on the version. But that was where I first that had to have been one of the first times I'd seen it. And I don't know, it was that movie that you kind of went back to. And that's that movie that I always find myself going back to every Thanksgiving. At some point, I watched it. To the point where there's a wonderful movie theater, I'm going to point now, in New Orleans, down here, called Britannia Movie Theater, which is an old school movie palace. It is amazing. And they were supposed to play Planes and Automobiles on a Sunday morning. And unfortunately, there was a rights issue last second. So my brother and I walk in Sunday morning at 9 a.m. ready to play Trains and Automobiles, and the owners were lovely people, said, sorry guys, we had a dispute with Paramount, can't play it. So we missed out this year. But I missed out on seeing it on the big screen. I would love to see that in a big screen with an audience.
Yeah, I've never seen it on the big screen either. I think I feel like we were basically on the very edge of getting in depth on the movie itself. So why don't we just go ahead and listen to a little bit of the trailer for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles right now.
During holiday travel, some people get delirious. Some get delayed. And some get Del Griffin.
American Light and Fixture, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
Neil Page got all three.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey.
Two happy clams just whistling down the road.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the Marconi family.
Paramount Pictures presents
Wilma!
Steve Martin.
You ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show, that's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Candy.
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
In a new film by John Hughes. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game.
That was a little bit of the trailer for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987, writer-director John Hughes. So, Jamie, you mentioned this is your favorite comedy. I'm assuming that's why you wanted to talk about it. So what do you think about this film makes it so special, I guess? I think we kind of skated on that a little, but let's get a little full in depth on that.
It was a movie that my dad and I would watch all the time, and there's that bonding experience of liking stuff Dad likes. And it's just a funny movie. It's just something so heartfelt, and the older you get, the more you can appreciate the performance of John Candy and Steve Martin as well. But it's so hard to win Oscars for comedy, but it kills me that at least get a nomination. God, wouldn't it have been amazing if he had somehow got an Oscar nomination? I'm not saying he should have won, which would have been great, but that's the kind of performance. That's a once in a lifetime for John Candy. And I remember the Siskel and Ebert review, and they said John Candy was like Robin Williams, a comedian who they really liked, kept saying there's not the right fit. They can't put the right material with him. And when that movie came out, it's on YouTube, you can find it. They say, okay, finally, he has found the right vehicle for himself. This is the perfect role. It's funny as hell. We need more of this. And it's so encompassed John Candy and everything we love about him as a person. And everyone said he was that guy. He was the guy you thought he was in the movies. This big, lovable guy everyone got along with, who was not the life of the party, but just knew everyone on a first name basis. He was that guy. And we only had him for a little bit, but I still miss him. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying that if he had lived past, 1994, missing an amazing career. I kind of doubt it. I mean, it would have meandered off like most careers do. It's the nature of but God, man, I miss him. Like, see those comedies, like, God damn, he's so heartfelt as Dale Griffin. And I'll go even further. I know Dale Griffin, that you think are sort of abrasive and can be not put upons, but maybe a little too personable, and they get too much into you, but they're good people at heart. That's what just kills me. It's like I know people like this, but they're good people. Mm-hmm. Like, something about that guy just completely connected. I don't know what it is, man. And I got to tell you, talking about John Hughes earlier, the story goes that one of the reasons that John Hughes retired is that John Candy died, and that kind of just it just sucked air out of the room. And he was so spent. He just said, "I'm done. I can't." He thought he was going to be doing like the next 10 years of movies with John Candy, and that just kind of knocked his off.
Yeah, I do think that was probably a factor in it. And I think in the Ebert, the Siskel and Ebert review, they even say something about how both Steve Martin and John Candy in this movie, they're basically just kind of they're embodying like themselves, like their personas, and they're so I feel like you see both of them at their best in this movie. Like, I feel like for both actors, I feel like this is probably one of their best performances. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Steve Martin has even said that this was one of his favorite films that he's ever made, and one of the ones one of his most proud of.
He said it's his favorite.
Yeah.
He said it's his favorite of the product, the way the product turned out, and just making it. There's another great video on YouTube. It might not have been YouTube. It's definitely the DVD of them doing a press conference to promote the movie. I don't know if they're at an actual airport, but like they're at a mock-up airport, and they're doing press with each other. And the way that Hughes and Martin, Andy are bouncing off each other, you can't fake that shit, man. That's real. Mm-hmm. And God, you just sit in your head like, would they have ever done another movie together? Because sometimes they're so perfect, like a comic duo, and they do a slew of movies together, right? Like, why didn't they do a bunch of them? Mm-hmm. And it was like, maybe now they knew, like, if we ever do it, we can never work together again because it can never be as good. It would have to be as good as this movie, and there's just no way it ever can be.
Right.
But God, they were so perfect together.
They really
Steve
were.
Martin's a funny guy. Like, I love Steve Martin. You talk about movies earlier there are so many Steve Martins that I have not seen. I've only seen some of them. But, like, next one, like, my favorite one is more obscure. It's Bowfinger. Like, I've not seen Bowfinger's awesome. Yeah, it's another great 99 movie. Coming soon on your favorite podcast.
Yeah.
That'd be great. But, like, God, Steve Martin, I don't feel like he gets his due.
Yeah, and even in Bowfinger, it's Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy, another like tremendous comedic talent, kind of operating at the top of his game as well.
Mm-hmm. It was peak Eddie, in my opinion, right when he had rejuvenated his career and repackaged himself as the family-friendly guy in a good, where he let that go to hell. But no one's perfect. But God, like, you just, God, it's just such a. I don't know. The circumstances that movie so funny, like so perfect. I still quote lines from that movie. Besides those two pillows. Like, I literally had a situation one time where we went through, the scene at the end of the movie when towards the end when he's the wrong way. That happened to my dad and I.
Oh wow.
We were leaving somewhere with another older gentleman with his wife, and we were going in our car, and he went in his car, and he literally went down the wrong road. And my dad gunned it, and we're waving at him. When it finally got over, I looked at my dad and said, "You're going the wrong way." And what? We started quoting the movie. It's just that personal thing. In fact, I remember Dad to this day says he has never scream louder and laughter at any line of any movie is during that scene. And when they go, "You're going the wrong way," and Neil rolls the thing down. And he goes, "What? You're going the way." He looks over at Dale and goes, "He said going the wrong way." "What? Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?" Steve Martin says, "Yeah, how would he know?" I'm laughing now. It's so goddamn funny. That whole scene, by the way, talking about perfect comedy, the moment scene starts with them in the rental car to the ending where, the thing catches on fire. That's not 10 minutes, is it? It might be about 10 minutes, but that is absolutely the way you keep building, just not the tensions, but you just one-upping yourself in terms of the comedy. It just gets funnier and funnier and funnier, like to the point where, like, for years, my avatar on Facebook was John Candy Devil Suit. And I actually was such a dork, I put file photo underneath it. Nice. Very stupid.
I feel like that's also the moment that the comedy gets probably the broadest, because it does have the devil suit, the skeletons. They're like,
oh my God, funny. But yeah, I mean, like, oh God, shit. I kind of like, it's one of those movies that you, like, we're talking about it late, but like, you kind of want people to see it for themselves. Like, you don't want to give it all away. But if you're looking at this, you have seen it,
right? Exactly.
You've seen it. I mean, hopefully you have. I hate when people say spoiler alert. Like, the movie's like 35 years old, or 32 years old now. So, like, you've seen it by now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, God, I think it's a perfect comedy. Like, I just don't think that Hughes has ever been better. Like, that was like that. And it was his first adult-bearing movie too.
I was gonna say that. I think it's after a string of all teen movies, pretty much. I'm looking at, because I have his filmography up. It's like 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, even some of the ones that he wrote or produced, and like Pretty in Pink and things like that. Like, yeah.
It was the first one that focused entirely adult perspective. Like, you could say, like, a European Vacation, which he did write and produce, and was
right.
That was. I mean, it's weird that, like, a writer producer was his series. You never think of the vacation movies as Harold Ramis's movies, even though Harold Ramis made the first one. He's one of the reasons. I'm not even a big vacation guy personally.
Yeah,
but like, why that movie works for a lot of people is Harold Ramis. Not take away from Chevy anybody, but. Yeah, it was the first one where John Hughes went into adult territory, and it seemed so perfect for him. I don't know, maybe She's Having a Baby Not Doing Well kind of broke him. Excuse me, because like the very next movie is Uncle Buck, where it's an adult, but it's mostly a kid's movie. It's kids. It's like, and he started amping it up for the kids. That's why I always think Uncle Buck might have been the one that kind of ruined him, not Home Alone. Because he didn't produce Home Alone. Oh, yeah, I mean, he didn't direct Home Alone, Chris Columbus.
Right.
Yeah, that's more of Chris Columbus's movie than John Hughes's, respectfully.
Yeah, I think you just have this pitch perfect script matched with these two comedic powerhouses, and I don't know. It's just something about their persona of Steve Martin being the sort of like high strung, like irritable, lashing out, sort of seething guy, and kind of a bit of a curmudgeon, and then John Candy just being like warmth and warm and obnoxious and loud, but with a good heart. Like, I don't know. It's like the classic kind of Odd Couple thing, I guess.
Yeah, and the ultimate salesman, the guy who could sell ice cones to Eskimos. Like, you could totally agree that great montage of him selling those, the shower curtain ring, a bunch of people, and him like fucking doing it like $100 or something. Like, oh my God. Which I was going to. I was thinking about this the other day because we were getting ready for this podcast. I was thinking, is that an occupation? Was that ever a real occupation?
Oh, the shower ring salesman?
Yeah, was that a real thing? Like, I was thinking about that because, when we moved into our apartment, we had to buy a shower curtain ring. It's like, 8-9 months ago. And it just made me sit there thinking, like, wait, who would sell this shit? Like, we went to Walmart and bought it.
Right.
Like, how does he, like, and I know it's 1987 and I mentioned disbelief, but I wonder, like, was that actually an actual occupation at some point? Or am I just a gullible idiot, which is probably the latter, thinking that was a real thing?
It feels like a real movie job, but then again, he does say that he does say that he works for a larger company and as a salesman for the shower ring division or whatever. So
that's right. Yes.
I guess in today's like corporate run world, then maybe you'd have to sell it wholesale to different stores to carry it so that the Walmart would carry it in stock, your brand of shower curtain ring or something. I don't know, but it's the perfect sort of movie comedy job that sounds realistic enough, but also just ridiculous enough as well.
Because Neil is a madman. He's an executive. He's a marketing executive.
Yeah, exactly.
In the 80s, and it has the often forgot about post-credit sequence where he still can't make up his mind about what to fucking fix. The 3 designs, and he's still sitting there. Have you seen that scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a weird, like, what? Like, that's a weird, like, way to end it. Your heart is lit, you're in awe moment, and then has that bit, if you stay during the credit, and you're like, what? That's a weird one.
Well, Ferris Bueller, I mean, it was like the progenitor of the whole thing. So I guess John Hughes sort of, popularized at least the post-credit scene long before Marvel and everyone feels like they have to have one.
Yeah, I mean, like, him and Joe Dante were the two ones that made. I remember some of the early Joe Dante. The Howling had a post-credit sequence, if I remember correctly. Those are fun. Like, not requirements, but yeah. I mean, they're part of the fun experience of the Marvel movies, which they are just filler movies. They're not real movies. Sorry, film Twitter. They're not real movies. But they're fun. It's part of the experience. You sit there and wait for extra scene, part of the experience that you go into expect. But
sometimes,
and like,
guys, sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
I was gonna say on the post credits thing before we moved on from that. Sometimes they're worth the now 10-minute wait. Sometimes they're not, but you have to hand it to Marvel at least for that. What was it, Spider-Man: Homecoming, where they basically troll the audience and Cap comes out and like, oh, patience. Sometimes you're gonna wait for something and it's not gonna be worth it. And then it became a meme.
Yeah,
of course it did. Of course it did.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, like now everything's. So there's some weird meme, like just to prove to you that you cannot tell what's going to be a meme. I kept waiting. I'm really getting off topic here, but talking about like you can't pick what's going to be a meme. So I always thought that one was going to become a meme about Willow, but not. I don't know if you know what scene I'm talking about. The scene where they transform the heroes into pigs.
Oh yeah.
Which is so fucking horrifying, and I'm still thinking this is going to be an internet thing in any fucking mix, and like that just never did. I don't know how it did. That's terrifying. Like someone actually on YouTube did a scene and played it in slow motion, and it's even scarier than you remember if you remember that sequence. Like Val Kilmer with a pig nose screaming with a pig voice in slow motion is terrifying.
I need to go back and watch it now in slow mo. I've seen that movie in the last few years, but it's been a while. So maybe there's still a chance for the Willow memes to explode.
Yeah,
they're doing another one or something.
Sure they are. Well, you talk about like you're going to edit up stuff. It'll be tight. But you talk about how tight the movie is. It amazes me is that when he played that trailer is. I don't want to exaggerate. I would say there's a good 40 to maybe 50% of material in that trailer that is not in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of stuff in that like line scene that just don't make it into the cut of the movie. And I have always been fascinated. But apparently Hughes, the first cut that Hughes was something like 3 hours. It was like a 3-hour cut of the movie. The movie is 90 minutes?
Like 92 minutes. It is
airtight. There is no fat in that movie. There's not an ounce of fat on that phone. And it amazes me that you can come with a 3-hour cut. And, they did the Breakfast Club on Criterion. And he had he's had his rough cuts on Betamax tapes for years that his family have just held in their possession bathroom. And I keep waiting for someone. That's another one why I feel like Criterion should do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I get the importance of doing Breakfast Club. It's a commercial decision to do that. Mm-hmm. But where's Planes, Trains, man? I heard a rumor that Ferris Bueller was actually going to get a Criterion release. I'm like, I could see that.
Yeah.
Like, I would put all of John Hughes' movies as Criterion release, obviously. But like, I could see you can make the argument like Ferris Bueller should be like a Criterion release.
Yeah. Well, then I feel if after Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller, this would be at the very least the next up at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I didn't even like buy the Breakfast Club Blu-ray. Like, I just made. I'm not gonna say this, but like, I went on YouTube. Someone posted the deleted scenes from the Breakfast Club from the Blu-ray, and even deleted scenes that I've heard about for years that are still on that Blu-ray. I don't know why they aren't on there. Like the stuff that they shot and cut out. Apparently, that was Hughes' style. The Breakfast Club was an old one where there was like an insanely long cut, and he cut that thing down to the bone, and it works perfectly. But like. Yeah, just rewatch the trailer, man. Tons of lines, and of course, you know, if you've seen the TV version, you know the one scene that we definitely know is in existence. Them having dinner on the airline, which was cut for time. Which is a perfectly funny scene.
Yeah, I think I feel like we should just kind of go back and forth with some of our favorite scenes from the movie, because we talked about the dynamic between the two of them. We talked about the performances. There's also a lot of really great cameos and character actors that show up in this movie that I realized this time. And you have Michael McKean as the cop that pulls him over, and Ben Stein early on.
I was going to say Ben Stein is the one that immediately comes to mind. Yeah.
Kevin Bacon is the one that beats Steve Martin to the cab. A lot of Hughes regular players basically.
I wonder how the Kevin Bacon thing came, because in my head, and they've never clarified what happened with that. So. He had Planes, Trains, and Automobiles first, I think. I've heard different stories. I've heard some people say he made She's Having a Baby first, and then Planes, Trains, and Automobiles came together so fast it actually was shot, done, and that was like supposedly She's Having a Baby was sitting on a shelf for like a year before Paramount put it out. Like, that was not a movie that they wanted to put out for whatever reason. I like that movie perfectly. That's the one that apparently meant the most to him personally. But supposedly the story goes that like Kevin Bacon worked with, like, he did She's Having a Baby first, and then he just said, hey man, if you ever want me for anything else ever again, call me. I'll totally show up. And he says, as a matter of fact, I have, and that's how that scene, and like, he only shot it for a day, just came in, got in and out, and it's a memorable moment that we all think about, is that the wordless chase with Steve Martin. And you talk about like things I like, Robert. I like talking about like what a curmudgeon Steve Martin is. I love the audacity, because I rewatched this movie yesterday. The audacity that Neil Page has is to go to the fucking lawyer and go, sir, can I please have your cab? Like, fuck you. He got it. He's got the right to haggle you in that case. And he's like, I hope you have a good, happy holiday. Well, this will help,
Yeah.
Dude, like, you're a douchebagger for having him do that. Like, maybe he had somewhere to go. Like, you don't know. Like, fuck you, man. You should have just listened to your pal. Remember, his friend says, come with me. Like, he was going to go with the...
He's like, you're never going to make the 6. Yeah.
That's right. He says, you're never... Yeah, that's right. You're never... And he says, look, I'm going out at 8. Hang out with me in the office. It'll be later. We'll get a beer. We'll hang out, and we'll actually make it. Oh, no, I promised my wife I'd get to there. I get that logic. You want to don't piss off the wife. I get that. But you also have to tell your wife, honey, it's horrible. I'm going to make... You see that shot where he's in the long line and he tilts his head over. This dude is not getting there. It's an act of God. He even got there on time somehow, and he still missed his flight. Like, oh my God. The ball's on Neil Page, which I think tells you about the character. I think that tells you he just thinks that he could just, pay his way out of anything. Like, he's a smart guy. He's a businessman. He's college educated. He has gotten to that position for a reason. He's not there for just no fucking reason.
Right.
He's some talentless schmuck. Well, and there's plenty of people who fail obviously, but Neil Page is not one of them. And it just speaks so well to his character, the way he was able, thought he could just, this was okay to do that, was to go to a guy who just got a cab and say, no, give me your cab, or that is the good of your heart. But it also speaks to Dale Griffin, who was street smart. He just see a moment, packs the thing, and out he's gone. And he doesn't think a thing of it. Hey, it was his cab. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because remember that's one of my other favorite shots. They recreate the door he's like playing in his mind, and like he sees Neil, and he's like the door recreated next to him. I love that. It's a funny image. Like, I know I like this. It's very high volume to those characters. Yeah. Very, very funny stuff.
Yeah, there's a certain element of their dynamic too that I think is a little bit of a class conflict, whereas between, not even a little bit of an element. It's as revealed by the end when you find out what Del's real situation is. I think it's very much that one person has kind of everything that they've worked hard for, but that it kind of has a certain level of comfort and therefore entitledness. And the other one is scrappy and street smart and thinks on his feet and is like, oh, I'm going to say that, these are the famous earrings of so-and-so. And I'm going to like get some money together so we can get out of here. Or I'm going to react quickly in a situation and call the motel because I know that this is the way this is going to, I've seen how this situation plays out. And I think that's interesting to see how they each react to any given situation.
It's really telling. At the end of they're having the scene where they break it, they do a little mini bar, and he sits there and he goes, when I'm dead and buried, the only thing that's ever going to be people going to ever remember me by are some rings on a shower. But that's my legacy.
Right.
There's really poignancy to that. You remember Steve Martin first takes a shower and he looks up and he sees the rings and he just kind of nods, says, all right, nodding like before they get into their comic situation. It's kind of like a nod of respect, like, okay. But this guy works for a living. Yeah, he has the other line that is echoed in the montage in the movie when Dale starts to Neil connects the dots because I'm afraid I've been away too home for long. He just shoots off. I haven't been home in years. Mm-hmm. And you said they don't even have. And he says I don't have a home. Does he literally not have a home? And maybe he doesn't. Some people are just like he just can't go back. Like his wife's been dead for 6 years, so that's 1986 to 80, 79, 80. His wife's been dead. We don't know how old he is, but his wife looks old in the picture, so you don't really know how old Neil's supposed to be, or Dale's supposed to be. So there's a certain sense of sadness, most like childless, and he has no family, just like his friends are his family, like his clientele family. He's like, what does this guy do all year long? Like, what was he going to do what was he going to do if he never met Neil?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I mean,
it's like fate come together. And in my heart of hearts, I always think and it's also like, I think like what would it, like, you don't want to see a sequel, God no, but you see in the story that continues in your head, I think that for the rest of their lives, those two guys are good friends.
Yeah.
And they keep in touch. And it does become a thing where he comes over for the holidays. And they always laugh. And they say that time, they have like a couple of beers and they just laugh their ass off at like the car or the hand up his ass. Or they probably, I think
pillows? His wife. Yeah, there are several classic scenes in this movie that are like, you just watch on YouTube just randomly that stand on their own as just brilliant pieces of comedic filmmaking. I mean, the thing with the car and
the sting. I think the sting in the score sells it. Those aren't pillows. We'll play this right now. That sells it. It's a horror movie for like 2 seconds. But that's it. Like that's and like you said, they're going because Hughes. The story goes Hughes was stuck in traffic. I mean, he was stuck in an airport, not overnight for a couple of hours back during his advertising days, back in the mid-late 70s. And he hadn't came up with the idea, like, what would have happened if I didn't get home? Like, if I was actually there overnight. And, like, that's the idea kind of came and, he extrapolated that idea and it morphed into this comedy. Like, where the mind comes up with these ideas. And, of course, unfortunately, we can never talk to Mr. Hughes, obviously. And, frankly, if Mr. Hughes was still around, I don't want to say curmudgeon, but he did not talk to people. Mm-hmm. He did not. In fact, the only commentary he ever gets for Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it was a weird, like, how did he sign off on that? And he just did it on a lark. And it's kind of hard to find that commentary now. Like, they don't even repurpose it anymore. They don't even put it out. That's a guy I wish we could, like, hear from. Like, have him sit down and, like, give his thoughts on the movie. Like, that was, like, and we'll never get that perspective anymore. Like, because, unfortunately, his wife passed away, I think, last year, his widower. Like, she's gone too. So it's like even getting the perspective that, like, that's one of those things where, like, it was so bare bones watching that DVD, which it was already like not insulting. That's unfair. I mean, these DVD. I have friends who used to do the DVD special features, and they said, like, look, I mean, we're working on the people have access to. We ask everybody, and a lot of them say no. And you look at one of the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Those aren't Pillows edition, which I hate that title, by the way. And who's on that one? It's not many people. Like, they didn't even get marked. Like, they got like Michael McKean. God, who else? Was that it? Just Michael McKean? Like, I'm blanking out. Like, who's the actress's name? I'm blanking out what her name is. I feel like myself.
Layla Robbins plays
Layla
Robbins. Page,
yeah, that's right. She gives an interview because she was the staple for. She was one of Hughes' staples for a while, famously in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Oh, not Ferris Bueller. I think it's literally just the two of them, and like maybe one or two people. Like, so they're working with what they have. You just can't find anybody now. We don't have that perspective anymore. It's sad because I certainly am. I'm curious. Like, I'm always fascinated by the behind the scenes of my favorite movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. And I feel like that I think we talked about this on the Man on the Moon episode, but that whole special features thing is sort of dying off a little bit as physical media is waning to streaming and digital copies and all of that stuff, unfortunately.
No, there'll always be. I mean, thank God there'll always there's enough of a market for people like Shout3 and Criterion, Arrow Video, but like that's the three labels.
Yeah,
that's it. But it feels like that's it. But for a while it was like everyone was opening their vaults and doing special edition DVDs for everything, and now it's just you don't see it anymore. Like even I think there was a story last week about Warner's and Universal are actually going to join forces to make DVDs together. That's depressing. Like,
yeah, that is.
Like,
wow.
I was like, are you serious? I couldn't believe when I read that. I mean, DVD. I mean, physical media will never go away. There'll always be a market for it. Because I in fact, the older I get, it's hard to watch a movie on streaming. I have to have a physical copy to watch.
Right. But then now, like you said, they're not putting as much effort into features anymore. So you'll get the DVD or the Blu-ray, and it'll be a movie and like some very canned bit of marketing, and that'll be about it. Maybe a trailer. Yeah, maybe, no commentaries, nothing in depth, really. Just kind of like the same recycled interviews on every little featurette. It's just like it's been kind of obnoxious, actually.
Yeah, we found ourselves going right back to where we were before the DVD boom of 2000. We're right back to that point. It's so weird. It's Blu-ray is just the new Laserdisc. It's just that niche like film market that's never really going to take off.
Yeah.
And look how much longer Blu-ray's got, maybe 10 years.
Let's talk about, I wanted to point out too that I feel like what makes this movie really work and why I think this to me is really like kind of the best form of comedy in a way is that these are both real people that could easily kind of be cartoons of themselves. Like he could have gone the Long Duck Dong way and had this guy be so ridiculously obnoxious and messy and whatever, and this other one so uptight that he just became two annoying people, but that he humanizes both of them. So like we understand why Steve Martin would be annoyed with him, and we understand why John Candy wouldn't understand why Dell wouldn't understand Neil being like to his perceived as rude as he sees him or intolerant. Like there's that whole scene where he says about that. So they're both basically real people thrown into these kind of heightened situations, with the car being the most heightened of all. That the fact that I even made a note of like, how did this car even drive at all? That they were able to sit in and drive it to the motel. It's like, wow.
Do you think this vehicle is safe to be on the road? Yes. Yes, officer. The sincerity of that line. Yes, I do. But you know what? That speaks of Griffin because he's also like a bullshit artist. Like
right.
His sales, he thinks like I can sell this. He thinks he can maybe get away with it. Of course, he doesn't. Like, no, get the fuck off the highway with this thing. Oh my god. That's another funny image I was thinking of, like them in the back of the car where like their face frozen and the dog about to bite their ball.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that was funny.
They're talking
That's
later.
funny.
I think it's the minibar scene where they're talking about where he's like about being in the car, and he's comparing. He's saying he felt like a Whopper, that he's going to have like grilled lines on his ass, and
Yeah.
it's so funny.
I feel like, the line I always like the most that makes me laugh with that scene, he goes, I feel like I'm in summer camp and John Candy drunkenly peeks his head out of the bathroom and goes, I was like,
So great.
But that bond. That bond is real, man. Like that was a real friendship started, like after it was over. Like, that's what happens. That's the ending. That last shot sums it up. It makes perfect sense. Like, he opens up his home, his family, to this guy who he feels is like, I've gotten to know. That shot of him smiling, man, it's so tender, it's so sweet, a little not heartbreaking, but it's like, it's what he wanted. He just needed to be like, he didn't have a family and he has one now.
Right.
But that's what the guy wanted. Like, it's like, oh my God, like that was like, you could not have ended it on a more perfect note.
I mean, and you don't really get it spelled out until the very end, obviously, but there's a lot of hints as to what's going on with him. I'm thinking specifically about when he's outside, like in the car, in the cold, and he's talking to his wife. He's like, how am I ever going to wake up? And to your point earlier, where it just seems like either he doesn't want to go back to wherever he used to live because of the memory of his wife, or he just, can't. I don't know. It sounds like he just can't move on. He's been stuck for 8 years, just kind of as living like a nomad, basically, because he doesn't know how to. That was his, she was his rock. She was his anchor. She was his foundation, and so he's just kind of been, I guess, floating around, selling things and living life that way. That's
the story of the movie, like him learning to find his, like getting out of his hole. Because God forbid, if it happens to me, I don't know what I would do without my lovely love wife. I don't know what I'd do without Anna.
Yeah.
Who knows how we react to drastic situations like this? And they don't know the details about how she died. It's just that she's dead. That's all you need to know. He's like, his wife is dead. He loved her with all of his soul, and he couldn't bear with it, and he coped to the best way he could. That big. Think about it, like that big suitcase he carries it's a funny image. And you realize like what he's carrying is he's carrying his home. What he's carrying him inside that is him. Those are all pieces of him inside it. On the surface is a very funny gag, but you realize like in a tender moment when he's opening that stuff up and the scene in the hotel room, he gets out the picture of his wife. And like he just had all these things, and that's the last remnants of his home left, of who Dale Griffin is as a person, his wife, and all that. Really touching. Like it gets me teary-eyed thinking about it now. How wonderful that stuff works.
Yeah. And watching it this time, I had the similar reaction to, as you mentioned earlier, to thinking that not only is this John Candy's best performance, but this should have been something that he should have gotten like Best Supporting Actor nomination, or whoever you want to say is lead or supporting. I feel like with category fraud running so rampant, they probably would have pushed him in supporting. But
Jesus Christ. I'm so that they still get away with that.
I know.
I like Green Book. Like giving it to Mahershala Ali, it's like he's the co-lead. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Dude, like you want to give it an actor, go for actor. And considering how weak that field was, they gave it a fucking Rami Malek. I'm getting off topic.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I don't care for Bohemian Rhapsody either. So that's.
Oh, we talked about that last show. That's right.
I think so. Yeah.
But anyway, I don't. Yeah, they're always going to frown upon comedy roles. They very rarely will get the stick out of their ass and acknowledge how hard this is to do. It's hard to do drama too. That's not to take away from how hard those actors work, but it's a different level. And you could probably count with two hands how many comedic performances won Academy.
Yeah, not for a while.
Won. And if there's anyone that should have been, and I'm not saying win, but been nominated, should have been John Candy in Plane, Chains, and Automobiles. And hey, man, he had a very rare, wonderful, dramatic turn in JFK. It's a bit part. It's 2 scenes. But he's phenomenal in that movie. That's also one of my all-time favorite movies. And I'm not going to say that he steals JFK because that would be hyperbolic on my part. But he's one of the performances I think of movie. How many people Oliver Stone managed to cram into that frame with that little shooting timetable, and to get a great John Candy performance like that we had never seen from him before since. I'll name drop another great John performance that's underseen is Only the Lonely.
Yeah.
With Ali Sheedy and Jim Belushi, the great thespian. But I mean, that's a little movie that like never got enough love.
Yeah, another John Hughes produced, Chris Columbus directed.
He produced that. That's right. Yeah. The loose remake of Marty, one of my favorite movies from 1955. Gilbert Mann's comedy, or dramedy, if you want to call it. The Ernie Borgnine. Yeah, I love that.
It's something with Candy and Hughes, where Hughes just really knew how to tap into the range that I think John Candy brought on screen. I mean, and I feel like if this movie came out, later or came out more recently, I feel like they probably would have pushed him for awards consideration. I mean, he has an Oscar clip in the middle of this movie. The whole "I Like Me" scene is an Oscar clip. So I mean, it's like I don't know. I don't know.
He's got several Oscar clips.
I feel like that's probably the most obvious. The whole where he's got like a long speech. But yes, he's so great in this, and Martin is too. And Martin's been great in other things, but it's also I think because we had a shorter period of time with John Candy that he does emerge as the standout in this movie, and that it allows him to do comedy and drama, and he's the heart and soul of the movie in multiple different ways. He's great. He's great in this. It's amazing.
Also, we did get to see Martin. We got to see Martin play the wack year before.
Yeah.
And for lack of a better term, he's the straight man. But not really. But like he fits in those shoes of the straight man for this particular dynamic, and he wears those shoes as comfortably as one I've ever seen. Like you just think like he should have done more stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like I mean, God, I never felt that like this is not a situation where it's Hearts of Darkness, where it's like Francis Coppola losing his mind before our eyes. Like it's like you just felt that Hughes was in control of the movie, knew what he was doing, and had enough flexibility to like to let Candy and like he knew when to let them go, when to dial it back. And same thing with his stock company of actors who kept coming back for his movies. Like as you mentioned earlier, a lot of his movies are in here, and he uses them at just the minimum. And like there's not a sore note in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like I can't think of anybody who's saying that in a bad way. Even the little bit with the kid is fine. Like that thing where again I mentioned earlier about the kids sort of Hughes kind of getting into the kids sitcom kind of thing. Who is it? It's Daddy. And little girl says, "Delay." Like you think, oh well, he's getting into that kind of thing. It'd be like a scene out of like Growing Pains, The Cosby Show.
Right.
But he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. I feel like
it worked so beautifully.
I feel like this is I'm looking at Steve Martin's filmography now, and I'm like, I think this is the first time he really played a dad too. Because then after this we get Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and then Parenthood, and then throughout the 90s he's like Father the Bride, and like he's like dad mode.
Parenthood's the one that really pushed him dad mode. Yeah, he's one like Laura Graham, like him and Laura Graham, like they always play parents, and you realize in real life like they don't have. Well, actually, Steve just had a child not too long ago. He actually is a dad now, but for a guy his age to finally have a kid, like, aren't you already a dad? Like he's just something about him screams dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Father the Bride and the Cheaper by the Dozens. Like I feel like he was just like the dad family comedy type of thing.
A Simple Twist of Fate. Like he was adopted a baby in that one. Real Burn and tons of stuff. Oh my God, absolutely. I'm sure he fathered some children in Bowfinger he didn't know about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed too is that in this movie, I feel like there's a real kind of contrast between the two characters as far as like sort of it feels like a little bit of a social commentary, kind of like artifice versus kind of authenticity. You know what I mean? Like Steve Martin is, trying to keep up appearances. He's trying to, he's
wearing nice clothes.
Yeah, exactly. He is
a sharply dressed man.
Right.
He looks like $1 million in that movie. Yeah.
Right. Whereas Dell is just like, what you see is what you get. He's very authentic. He's very like, he's the same person Well, unless he's trying to sell stuff, I guess. But for the most part, he's very authentic about who he is. Yeah.
That's what I like about him. Yeah. Yeah, he's got the very blue-collar, white-collar kind of atmosphere in both of them. Yeah. It works so well, man. Like, again, I wish he was here to tell us how, like, where it all came from. Let's see that 3-hour cut, but maybe, at very least, maybe the latter will happen one day, but obviously we'll never hear from him.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, even on the bus when they're doing the sing-along, and Neil is just singing a song nobody knows and then
go ahead.
Got
some 3. Oh my God, those dad loves and everyone picking the most obscure like still spoon up your ass kind of song. Oh, she would pick that song.
And then it's like Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. Yeah.
Well, Mom. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, Chatty Cat. I quote that movie, man. That's just a funny movie.
I love that scene too because I feel like after that scene where he's trying to sleep and he like blows up Adele and then would you get the I like me kind of thing. I feel like after that, like Neil still has issues putting up with him, but there's a certain like the first wall breaks down basically. Like he starts to see Del as a human being and treat him with a little bit more respect. And like, he's still annoyed by him. Yeah, they still fight and all that stuff. But it's like he's not belittling him or coming across as like condescending in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, like, and he saves his ass on a couple of occasions, from getting run over by the car. I'll help you, but you have to pick him up. No, Whistler. By the way, whose idea to do that? Oh my God, that is some like Jesus Christ. We got into I spit on your grave territory for a minute there. Like, where did you go with that idea? Oh my God.
We sort of alluded to it earlier, but I feel like before we start wrapping up, we have to talk about the scene where he's trying to rent the car and it's not there and he's stranded in the middle of nowhere, has to walk 3 miles. Obviously, I'm talking about Neil. And there's the great scene. I wish I could remember the actress's name, but it's the Principal Rooney's assistant from Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, we mentioned her earlier. I thought we did.
Yeah. I love that scene so much. That's another standout. Where
I don't appreciate. Oh, that's another scene I always imitate when she goes. I steal from that too. That's so funny. Yeah, I love her direction. That saying like, get him more annoyed. Like just come like random shit to talk about for Thanksgiving, and like Steve Martin is like up even more and more as the scene progresses. I don't appreciate how you're talking to me right now. I don't appreciate being left in the. God. Did they actually say how many you says fuck in that scene? Like, did someone do a head count?
Somebody probably did. I feel like it's...
Someone had to.
What is it? 15, 20 in that 1 minute or something? It's probably the most F-bombs per second of most movies, I would assume.
Yeah, and like, that's the reason they got the R rating. And like...
Yeah, worth it.
That's a great quote. Like John Candy says like, in the press conference of the movie, he says, yes, John says the F-bomb like 20 times. Yes, but it's only for one scene. I fucked up the joke. Edie Miller gets the name.
Oh, yeah.
Is the yes, she was in Ferris Bueller. She was in that. I'm sure she was in another mother John Hughes movie. I don't think she does much acting anymore.
No, I don't think so.
God bless her. But yeah, God, that's funny.
Great.
Yeah.
It's like, I want a fucking car and I want it right fucking now or something like that. And there's more F-bombs that I missed in that line. But yeah, oh God. And she's like, you're fucked. she gets
trusting yourself. Yeah, she gets the last laugh.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, God. I don't know what it was. Like that moment, he just fired on all cylinders, man. He just something about him, just like boom, boom, like something just lit a fire in his ass to like make that movie, and like it was so beautifully.
Yeah.
And great. He only had to be great once. He was great several times, but he was greater in that moment. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I think it's the one that as time goes on has become the iconic one. Whether as we talked about the bullshit woke culture decided to reevaluate his work for better or for worse in his works, but like everyone can agree, like that's the moment Planes, Trains, and Automobiles just like so. It was everything that we love about Hughes and everything that it comes encapsulated as a writer, director, producer in that moment. And it was never better or since. Like so iconic. The same way that Candy was never better. Way that was never better. Like it brought them together in such a way. And those guys have been great for it, but like it's just that in that moment, man. And like they'll have that forever. And I think of a great line. There's a great paraphrase. There's a great line. Ray Bolter was the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. He talked about what was it like being this, and he said, "Well, I didn't make much money." He said, "I was paid okay on Wizard of Oz, but I didn't get any residuals for the movie." He said, "I got something better than residuals. I had immortality. I will forever be the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. I will live on for ages and be any residuals ever." And I feel like that way with Martin and Candy and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's very rare that you get that perfect combination of filmmaker and lead performers. And I think there's something transcendent, particularly about this movie. Before we start wrapping up, is there anything that we haven't mentioned about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that you want to make sure that we cover?
I feel like we kind of covered everything. I'm trying to think, is there any song or anything like that? Once we got recording, I might come up on something, but I thought we kind of covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we covered them all. Great movie.
Yeah, great movie. See it if you haven't. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you've seen it. And if not, go watch it again. It's one of those movies that it stands up to incessant rewatches, as you mentioned, become kind of a holiday standard at this point for that reason. So definitely check that out. So Jamie Williams, if there's nothing else, can you tell people where they can find you on social media?
Oh, Lord. Go on the cesspool gutter that is Twitter. Film Nerd Jamie. Listen to my rambles because Twitter is a terrible place. I'm not going to lie. I say that as someone who goes there, but it ain't good. It brings up some people.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun in the way.
It depends how much you allow yourself to be carried away by the discourse, I think, one way or another. Right. But it's all, it's fun to dip into. Don't get lost in film Twitter or any other form of Twitter because it's it's dangerous.
Oh my God, you will never ever able to get out of that if you get lost.
Well, Jamie, this has been an awesome conversation about one of the best comedies ever made, I'd say, as well. We'll definitely have to have you back on at some point. I will actually, I will actually write you down as a potential for a return to Oz at some point because I think that would be a really fun conversation.
I'll have to rewatch that one. I feel like I'll pick something obscure.
We'll find something.
I think we're going to go for extras through the Heretic next time. I think really I don't think we're going to have the same conversation. That movie. Boy. Oof. I love me some John Borman, but what were you thinking, buddy? No, I'm not going to rewrite history on that one, buddy. You shit the bed. And you made my favorite movie of all time, and I not say you shit the bed.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll have to have that conversation next time. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, Jamie.
Thank you, sir.
If you're interested in joining me on the show to chat about one of your favorite films, head on over to crookedtable.com/guest. Or you can consider supporting the show at patreon.com/crookedtable. Of course, you can always find more podcasts, reviews, videos, and other movie-related goodies over at crookedtable.com. Until next time, this has been the Crooked Table Podcast, and I've been Rob.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
CROOKED.